thinking about are macromolecules and then enzymes.
Okay.
Only enzymes because of the exercise I pointed out last time.
Okay.
But besides those two things, I'm not sure. Photosynthesis and cellular respiration, right?
Okay, yes. Let's start there.
Okay.
Let's talk about the module 2 and all of the big concepts that have to be covered.
Yeah.
I was able to take the exam yesterday. So I took all the formative assessments and I took the exam. Kelly, have you had a chance to take the formative assessment?
No, I haven't. I actually have the first one here. Okay, that's coming up, but I haven't taken it yet. But I did forget just in case you need some points.
Got it. And then Miss Lee Henderson, I gave you my copy so that you have something to reference and you have something to make a copy of. In the future, Kelly, when you take your
formative assessment.
thank you, make a copy for Miss Lee Henderson so that she can. Do you want to go by Lee Henderson? Lee Henderson?
I've gotten it all.
What do you prefer?
Well, I am married, so it is Henderson.
I remember that.
Yes, and I just have, because I didn't get my driver's license changed, they had to hyphenate it.
Okay.
That's the only reason, but yeah, everybody outside are calling, students are calling me Miss H. I was like, no, Henderson. Yeah, and then that's the only reason. So I'm like, good Lord.
Okay. So
It's crazy.
that's so funny. So I'm gonna open up the formative assessments. So that I have them. Okay. Okay, so when we think about the chemistry of life, this is unit 2. This is a jam-packed unit, and it has some of the biggest concepts that are covered on the STAR exam. This unit, for a lot of kids, can make or break them on being able to pass the STAR.
Really?
Yes, because of the concepts that are covered on this exam, because several concepts in this exam also keep coming up later in the unit, in other units, and a lot of the connections that kids need to be able to draw in the future come back to this unit. And so it is super important that we get this unit right so that we can make sure kids are successful. So let's start by trying to name off some of the concepts that we know for sure are covered on this exam, and I will let y'all go first, and then I'm going to stamp anything that I don't hear.
Well, like I said, for me, those are the only 2 that I know of for sure.
So tell me the 2.
Oh, well, I guess it was 4. So it was macromolecules.
Yeah, also called what?
Biomolecules. Enzymes.
Yep. Which, does that fall under macromolecules?
Okay, so I don't know, because when I was looking at the lesson over it, I went back to the lesson from your friend in Houston. She did have an enzyme question on there. It's actually the same picture that's on the end of module. And I was wondering how that could be tied in.
Got it.
So that was a question that I had.
Okay, so enzymes are proteins. Proteins is one of our macromolecules.
Gotcha. Okay.
So they're tied together.
Okay, and that's why it comes up.
Yes.
Got it. Okay.
Yes. Okay, so macromolecules and enzymes. What are other ones that you said earlier?
Yeah, photosynthesis and cellular respiration.
Yep.
I know I'm missing something. Too sweet to jam
I know these tables for my tables for the SPED students. You got to be able to know how to read the tables.
Yes, and that's something that comes up on the test. This specifically the AP test. This AP for all exam is so heavy with the diagrams and the pictures.
Oh, no.
And so the reason why I'm saying this, the more reason why I'm saying this unit is meaty is because within each of these big concepts is a whole lot of stuff they have to digest. So the main big concepts are, Kelly, to your point, biomolecules, photosynthesis, cellular respiration, and then within those,
so much other
the topics, right? So let's start with biomolecules. What are the 4 biomolecules that kids need to know? Carbs,
lipids,
lipids,
protein,
yep, Nucleic acids, yes. Good. Based on what we've seen so far, what are things that kids need to know about those macromolecules?
Function is
I don't want to find out you sat around and talked to John all day and did shit.
trying to think.
Yes.
Yeah. So the building blocks of
Yes.
Building block of
I
proteins.
bought it.
Anything else?
I've been reading about the benefits of mushrooms.
I'm trying to visualize the table to see like what are all the parts of it. I don't know what it is.
Got it. So the other thing that you're missing is just what they look like.
Oh yes.
So they have to be able to identify what they look like.
They're healthy. You can eat it raw. Cook 'em.
So when I look at formative assessment, the first formative, oh my gosh. When I look at the first formative assessment that they have to take,
I know what you
the
think.
first big thing that's going to hit them is a diagram of carbs. And so they have to recognize a misconception that I identified here that we need to make sure that is punched when we start this lesson is if the molecules are arranged differently, what is it that I need to know about that?
The function table.
Yes. Because so far what I've seen in the lessons, we don't stamp that. And so that's a stamp that needs to happen. If I look, all of these are the same types of molecules. They are arranged differently, which means they're going to perform differently. They all have different functions.
Let me write down this thing.
But, so it's due to come in today. So when I come in
So
Monday,
basically, if the structure is arranged differently, the function changes.
I make I have a coffee pot, and when I make like on my days off, when I make a couple of cups of coffee and an iced coffee for the afternoon, that'll make like a pot of coffee. But, in the morning, I just make it one cup at a time.
All right, so that's gonna get them to that first, that's gonna get them to that first formative assessment. Knowing the function, to your point, knowing the monomers and polymers. And what is the prefix in those words that we wanna also teach kids?
So we have 12 ounce gag for like 15 bucks.
I didn't know if Miss Henderson.
I know.
I'm sorry?
No, it's okay. Probably
Donuts.
Yeah, so kids need to know. All kids need to know that poly is more than one, mono is one.
and that definitely comes up later on.
It sure does.
Teaching that later on in the year.
And especially, I'm tutoring a ninth grader who's taking biology in Garland. And I kept asking her, I'm like, what is a monomer? What is monosaccharide? And she's like, what does that mean? What does that mean? And I'm like, Lord, have mercy.
Gotta go back to the basics.
Right. Alright, so if we get through those concepts, kids will be prepared up to the first module, formative assessment, which is on lesson 33. There are some things that kids also have to review from this previous unit on that assessment. What is it?
On this one.
Yep. What are things that kids have to, because you know Kid Text is good for bringing back some things to review. So if you look on
They'll
this
bring it
one,
back?
they bring it back. So they're spiraling the previous text. If you look on this first one, you want to look at questions after starting with question number 5.
Yeah.
This is where I start to mention review. So either of you, which concepts do we also need to make sure we somehow spiral back in because they're going to come back in?
Those ecosystems, they're coming back.
Ecosystems is coming back. Not coming back as in we're teaching it again.
Okay.
It's coming back as like we need to continue to put it in front of kids to build on it and to remind them. So what we don't want to happen is we are making a shift, but like kids in biology have to remember.
Everything is interconnected.
Right. So ecosystems, what else?
It looks like would require a longest period of time to return to its normal state. Yeah, so ecosystems next I see like a food web.
A food web. Yeah. What else?
So like literally the predator on that decomposing, that's still a part of that.
Yep. See, symbiotic relationships.
Yeah, and then I see yes, well you just named it. Yeah, symbiotic for number 7.
And then I think there's one more.
Number 8 is talking about energy flow in the 10%.
Yep.
you know?
So those are 4 things that as you prepare to give this formative assessment, we also have to remember how can we quickly jumpstart kids' memories so that they can remember this. And I think it's either going to be it could potentially be a combination of the annotation sheet, your vocab list, you can bring those words back, so that kids can try to remember some of these concepts.
Yeah, I think I'll
You know, I don't know enough about
like an annotation
burning on just.
for review purposes, so they can easily just refer to it.
I will also say using the annotation sheet helped me get through these assessments because I was like, I don't know what this
Like,
means.
what does this mean?
I don't know what this means. I don't know what this means.
And you know what I was thinking? I was thinking of a different way to like maybe not. Just because as I was looking at this, there's so many words. I don't know if I'm going to do like actually a vocabulary sheets where they write it down because if we would spend so much time on it. I definitely think I should do vocab quizzes so they can at least dive into the vocabulary. But I'm thinking about, especially for this unit, maybe just do like an annotation sheet.
Yeah.
Too.
And if you want to take the annotation sheet and like again take that section and clear the words and that's what they build on,
Right.
that might also help them because then like just like your vocab, it's like you need to keep this annotation sheet because we're gonna build on the annotations to help them stamp with rubies. Like, what do I annotate?
Right.
This word. What do I annotate? This word.
Right.
What do I annotate? This word.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So as we then move to formative assessment number 2, we talk about the concept Kelly mentioned, which was enzymes, which are what type of macromolecule? Yep. So stick in this packet.
It's still in the packet.
Yep. I stapled it all together. Okay. So we keep going to the next one. This is formative assessment 2. So Kelly, where does that diagram look so familiar from?
What question was it? Literally the one we just looked at the other day.
Yes.
Yeah. Here. But it's just literally this. That's her, and this is like.
Yes.
the mountain.
So we're gonna get a nice little snapshot if kids are able to tackle that problem on the test based on how they do on this problem. And so this is gonna be our point of reteach of like, oh, they did not do well, we need to hit this harder, or great, they did well, they're set up for success on that problem.
Got it.
Okay? So things that they need to know about enzymes are what are some things we talked about yesterday when we were talking about the test?
What did I did not write this thing down.
Ooh. Ooh.
Okay, so basically, I definitely wrote this down. I must be in the wrong packet. I've been reading like 2 copies.
What kind
I'm
of
trying to
environment do enzymes thrive in?
remember. Acidic.
Acidic.
Okay.
It depends on the enzyme.
Okay, it is. But where the pH is lower.
Yes. If it's acidic, yes. Actually, on this module, on both this question and on the test, the 2 enzymes thrive in different environments. So one is thriving in an acidic environment, the other is thriving in a basic environment. So kids need to be able to understand what those environments mean.
Okay, so does that depend on the enzyme itself?
It depends on the enzyme. So, but what type of temperatures do enzymes thrive in?
Warm, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, warmer temperatures.
Yeah. 60 from again. Now, I actually have
All right. So
a device.
the next thing that is coming up on this formative assessment that it should be coming up in the module as well is another big topic which I didn't want to say until we got here. So kids start to learn about cells in this unit, and they learn about the types of cells, and they learn about viruses. So my first question is, do y'all know the 2 types of cells that we talk about in bio?
Prokaryotic and eukaryotic.
Yep. Pro and U.
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up because that definitely was a question that I had.
Yep. And so kids have to be able to, I think the word I'm trying to use is discern the difference between a prokaryotic cell and a eukaryotic cell in a couple of ways. Number 1, from a picture.
Unless I get it today and it tastes pretty bad.
Number 2, from a table.
I was actually doing these
And number 3, just from being able to read a passage.
The thing is,
And so I'm going to pause. Is this, for both of you, is this still helpful? Is this what you're looking for?
Yes, because they will have to. I'm trying to figure out what's relatable, identifiable.
So we have to talk about those 2 types of cells, and kids need to see. They have got to see pictures, because also on the module assessment, they are getting hit with a bunch of pictures of cells, and they need to be able to discern what type of cells are related. Okay? The next big thing, viruses. What do y'all know about viruses? Okay.
We're in one.
Yes. And this is actually where it gets super relatable, because on the module assessment, they talk about coronavirus. And as we talk about viruses, we can talk a lot about what's going on with the pandemic. And my favorite, when my teacher, when I started working here, talked about viruses, the big question that we asked is, Lysol says that they can kill 99.99% of viruses. Is that true? And the question, I'm asking y'all, do y'all think that's true?
Depends on the environment it's in.
Yeah, I think it's
Let me ask you this, are viruses alive?
yes.
I would say yes.
Okay.
I don't necessarily know why. But I just think
Interesting.
I know. I would say yes.
So, this is a common misconception from kids.
so. Right.
So, a virus needs a host
Oh,
to replicate.
Yeah, okay.
It cannot survive on its own. It is not alive. And so you can't kill something that's not alive. And that is the thinking that kids need to go through, to be like, so why are y'all telling me that I can kill 99% of viruses? I can't kill it because it's dead. It's already dead. It's only using my cells to reproduce and go from there.
Well, a marketing strategy though.
It is. And so that's how we also make the connection for kids. Like, ask them, do they think viruses are alive? And do that same thing, that same walkthrough that I just gave y'all, to be like, oh, dang, like, if a virus has no way to connect to something that is living, it would not continue to spread. That's why we wear our masks. That's why we do these other things, because we're trying to prevent it to be able to connect with something that it can live and take hold of. Okay? The other thing that they need to know about viruses is the 2 types of what am I thinking of? The 2 types of cycles of a virus. And this for me is where the annotations help me. I forgot what lytic, L-Y-T-I-C, and lysogenic, L-Y-S-O-G-E-N-I-C. Those are the 2 types of virus cycles.
What was that first one?
Lytic, L-Y-T-I-C. The annotation for lytic is quick, and so it's a quick cycle. That means symptoms and things like that. Its reproductive cycle happens very fast. Whereas lysogenic is the opposite. It is not happening that fast. Okay. Something else that I noticed as I'm re-looking at the formative assessment for macromolecules, the things that kids also need to know is they need to know the elements that are in each biomolecule. The first lesson, lesson 29, actually does this really well. It's just like the tag lesson you were talking about. So we need to leave it the way it is.
Yeah. That's what I did yesterday. Literally copy and paste.
So we need to add the elements present.
I'll have to walk to and from the bus, the train station.
Okay, y'all good so far? We're gonna keep rolling.
No. So back to viruses and cells. There's a question on.
The exam.
Yeah. And I was confused by the pictures with the pathogen and the blood cells.
Okay. Can I borrow yours again? Okay, so
I think it goes
are you asking more specifically, because you understand the table?
Yeah, no, it's the number, I think question number 8.
Yes. Okay.
Because I got down to answer choice A and B, right? But then it's like, I would need to know the difference between the size of the virus and the size of the cell.
Okay. So, Ms. Henderson, what this question is asking on the test is, You are given some unknown pathogen, and they give you a whole bunch of information that you have to dissect to try to decide what this pathogen is. Is it a virus or not? First thing they do is they give you a picture, which when you look at the picture, I don't see any difference. And so that, as I took this yesterday, that's actually something I'm going to ask for clarity on, because I'm like, I put something behind it. I was like,
It's not a difference.
how am I supposed to know whether this is bigger or not? And so that's going to be my question back to the curriculum team is like, how would they know?
Yeah.
In the bottom box, we then are having to figure out whether this pathogen has a nucleus or not. If it does, it cannot be a virus. If it doesn't, it could be. And what we find out based on the table is that it does have a nucleus, which automatically means it's not a virus. But then they ask us this question to then finally ask us like, so then if this pathogen we now know is not a virus, is it a eukaryote or a prokaryote? And they're asking us to decide based on that picture. But how they throw kids off is they give them all of this.
Yes.
And you do absolutely nothing
Nothing
with
with
this.
that at
You do
all.
nothing with this diagram. And yesterday I was like, I don't see, you do nothing. They didn't throw
And I feel like
kids off.
a student would spend so long.
Yes,
especially
that table.
Especially when we say annotate pictures,
Yes.
annotate diagrams.
Yes, and so they don't need this for anything. And so what we end up, what they have to focus on in this particular question, literally the only thing right now that's helping them is, does this pathogen have a nucleus or not? Because it does, then that means it could be a eukaryote, and we know that eukaryotes are large cells. But that comprehension process, I was struggling last night, like how to teach it. Because I mean, it's more than just the content knowledge; it's the skill to be able to use multiple pieces of data to draw a conclusion, which is what scientists do.
Yeah, for sure.
And whoa,
That's a lot.
it's a lot.
That's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah, that's gonna have to we're gonna have to figure out a way to stamp that for sure.
And
When
I
do
think,
we get to hope viruses themselves?
let's see if I did my breakdown. I think I said I did my breakdown of these lessons. I might have already done it already. I think mid-units, I need to go back. I'm gonna show it right now.
Because I was still like, wait, what?
Let's see. Okay, so while I look at that, all of that will cover up to the second formative assessment.
All of what?
All of what we just talked about
Okay.
will cover up to the second formative assessment.
Okay.
Okay. I have formative assessment 3 in there. I want y'all to look at it and tell me what we need to know while I look up where the viruses sit.
Okay.
From the solar.
So back to this question because I'm trying to add that annotation on the side.
For-
So number 8. So it says the medical student claims the pathogen causes Joan's illness is likely a eukaryote.
So they need to annotate eukaryote,
Right. And then I wrote to the side cells that have a nucleus.
right?
Which are the following pieces of evidence? Okay, so in order to decipher between A and B, I need to, which A says relatively large and B says the cell is relatively small. The only difference is that, so they would need to know that eukaryotic cells are
Large, right? If they do that, that could give them enough pieces of information.
Yeah, I think
To make a decision.
I know how to speak it now then. I just needed to understand that part.
Yep. Okay, so I'm gonna pull up the lesson. Ms. Henderson, if you flip to the next module assessment, not that you're in the module assessment, flip backwards to the third formative assessment.
It's gonna be FA.
I think it's 8. I don't know if they put an 8 on there though. It should be that one right there. Okay, you two together, I have to lay it down. Look at things that you've seen me annotate so we can talk about what concepts are covered on this formative assessment. It's about the process. Okay. So it's like, Alright, so 2 things. First thing, viruses is a supplemental lesson outside of the AP for all curriculum. You have the curriculum, it goes from the enzyme lab to biomolecules, then jumps to photosynthesis and cellular respiration. Then we have to include the pieces about viruses and things like that.
Okay. So they do have a lesson for it?
Yes. So there's 2 sides. We have the AP for all from the KIP Foundation, which covers everybody in the nation, but they do not tailor their lessons to TEKS and like the STAR test because everybody's states are different. So then KIP Texas has to supplement with things that we know are going to be tested on the STAR that are TEKS aligned specifically. So those are the 2 curriculums we have to mesh together. And as I was clicking through, I was like, okay, cells, boom, photosynthesis. I'm like, where's viruses? It's not there, so we have supplemental lesson. So when we look at formative assessment number 3, what are some concepts that are definitely covered on this? Go ahead, Ms. Anderson.
You said on here or right here? That we went over? Yeah, we were sitting there talking about the drawing a connection between the photosynthesis, and we need to know more about the viruses. And we kind of scanned back through it and noticed it went back to viruses towards the end. So this is going to be quite interesting.
It is. What are some things that kids need to know about photosynthesis and cellular respiration?
Well, I remember Miss Kelly, she actually had the little whiteboard and she had them drawing the connection between, kind of their own idea, the tree and the sun and everything else and how it actually kind of makes the circle. So trying to make that really relatable. So that's what I'm just kind of thinking for my students.
Okay. Kelly, what are you thinking?
Yeah, so the end product, so like how photosynthesis ends and then cellular respiration starts. And yeah, that's what I see for the most part.
Yep. And so on the annotation sheet, that we have it's WAC OG and then OG WAC.
Oh wait, say that again.
So I'm like, what?
So photosynthesis, the annotation.
And I think we wrote it down somewhere.
I sure have. You see it on my paper.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so
It's WAC OG.
Okay.
So that's water, sunlight, carbon dioxide, yields, oxygen, and glucose.
Wait, so you have WOC?
WAC.
WOC, right? Okay.
But it's not an O actually. I'm saying WAC, but it's not really an O. It's a what?
That's the sun.
It's the sun.
It's like it's the sun.
Yeah.
I was like, it's the sun.
But I'm saying walk just so that
Right.
kids know to draw a circle.
Okay.
But it's actually the sun.
Gotcha.
OG is the annotation, and that's the best way that I've learned to teach kids. Because when I ask, I'm like, what's the equation for photosynthesis? WAC OG is. Okay, what do those things stand for? And then the opposite is OG WAC. What is the A on cellular respiration? What does the A stand for?
Is it energy?
Yes. What is that energy? Kids need to know that. And so to Kelly's point, it's that biggest connection. I do photosynthesis, which must have light energy from the sun. And I get the product of oxygen and glucose, which jump starts my cellular respiration process to create energy.
What is it's water, sun, and carbon, right?
Water, sun, and carbon dioxide.
Carbon dioxide, yes.
Yields oxygen and glucose. There's one more thing that we see on module 2, formative assessment 3, that is brought back for
It was biomolecules.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
thought you wrote that one down initially. Biomolecules at the bottom. It's like the last question.
I might have. I'm just going so fast and I'm trying to process it in my brain and visualize it. It's all in there. That's why I write everything down so I can go back and read through it. Ooh, I don't know where she's at. Are you?
I'm not.
She's normally in.
The back.
Do you know where her desk is?
Yeah, by the teacher lounge.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
So we have covered a whole lot about module 2.
I know.
It is a doozy.
It's a lot.
It's a lot, and it's going to feel very fast paced, and it's going to overwhelm the kids. This unit tends to, because it's just so much information. They all connect somewhere, but it's difficult.
I know. And I remember Whitaker telling me last year, whenever we were about to go over like the teaks and stuff to do our star prep, that her students mostly struggled with biomolecules.
It is, and honestly, we need to. We'll definitely, as we continue to like do the lessons, like try to figure out where they're really struggling, what their
Yeah,
sticking
that's what
point
I'm
is.
curious.
But I think the thing that we struggled with last year is like kids just don't have a visual. They didn't have a visual because
Yeah.
we were doing things virtually.
Yeah.
But this year it's like you're there, you're in person. My favorite thing with nucleic acids is like phosphate, sugar, nitrogen base. Like that's how I teach it, to like make it real for kids. To your point, you're bringing them a connection of like, what can I do if I don't remember this?
Okay.
Figure it out. And so let's recap. What are our big topics for Unit 2? What are we starting with?
Biomolecules, macromolecules.
So we're starting with biomolecules. So what do we go to? What concept do we go to from there?
Enzyme.
Enzymes, which are what type of biomolecule?
Protein.
Proteins. So then after enzymes, we start to hit what?
Is it
This,
Before
I was
photosynthesis.
gonna say this is the order that I don't have it in the order that it
I didn't.
Oh, so let's go through the order. So first was biomolecules, macromolecules. That's the order first. Then Kelly, you were right. The second thing that's coming is we start talking about enzymes. Then, based on what you saw on formative assessment 2, what's the next big thing?
The photosynthesis?
That's number 3.
Okay.
So what's number 2?
Okay, so sorry. You're counting enzymes second.
I'm counting enzymes separate. 'Cause
Oh, you did.
Okay, gotcha.
so it's a macromolecule.
Right.
But
But
the
it's
things
still a
we-
thing in itself.
Because within enzymes, and I'm glad we're pausing because we didn't go over this. Within enzymes, not just, they don't have to know, they have to know not just the type of environments they thrive in, they also have to know about activation energy. And so, there are 3 big things I think that kids need to know about enzymes that when I was looking at the test, I can pinpoint. Number 1, what type of environment are they thriving in? And they normally have to assess that in a table or some type of diagram. Like they have to read, assess, decide.
Okay, hold on, let me go.
Okay.
Okay. Kelly, ready?
Yeah, so I have the environment they thrive in, activation energy.
Yep. So the second thing is then activation energy. An enzyme lowers activation energy so a reaction can move faster.
Hold on. Enzyme. Okay, so lowers. So what?
Miss Henderson, can you hand me my test? I'm gonna show you all an example of
Lowers activation energy, so
Mhm.
something.
the reaction.
Okay.
So in this diagram on the module assessment, this is a diagram that kids need to see before they get to the test. And so this diagram is a normal reaction. This hump is like the energy that we have to build to get to before, boom, the reaction will finally happen. If I add an enzyme though, it's lowering this hump so that it takes me less time to build energy and then boom, the reaction can happen. Does that make sense?
I think so. I think I need to dive more into like
Mhm.
my intro into the lesson,
Yeah.
and then once I'm looking at that table, I can probably dissect it.
Yeah.
So, question. So, the macromolecule, biomolecules, whatever. This lesson was only 50 minutes on the kit,
Lesson
you
plan.
know, lesson plan, right?
We might have to split over too. Right?
That's what I was going to say. It's only 15 minutes.
Yeah. No,
we
but
might need to split it over.
okay, no, that's fine because the day that I'm giving it is next Wednesday and Thursday. So
Oh, so it's already 85
class day.
minutes.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So you think I can cover that whole thing? It depends. Once
So I think
I've
you
started
can.
on the lesson.
I think you can cover that whole thing, but that Friday needs to be just straight up biomolecules practice.
Practice. Okay,
And I can put that in 15 resources.
Okay, cool.
Um,
That's what as I'm looking at this, I'm like, wait, for pacing purposes, how do you think I should tackle it?
yeah. And the way I love to think about enzymes is, and I'm thinking about Miss Vance and she drinks Red Bull. Enzymes are like a Red Bull. If I have to do an assignment or work or whatever and I don't have a Red Bull, it's taking me so long to get the energy to do the assignment. And now I'm gonna take my enzyme, I'm gonna take a Red Bull, and I'm like, oh yeah, ready to go. The time that it took me to, yep.
Okay, say it again.
The way that I like to think about enzymes is drinking a Red Bull, and I'm thinking about Miss Van. And so if I have to just do work without my Red Bull, it takes me so long to get the energy to the top to be like, okay, I can do my assignment now. However, if I take my enzyme, which in this case is a Red Bull, it's taking me much less time to get started because I'm like, yes, I have the energy. Boom. That's what's happening with enzymes. It's lowered the amount of input I have to give to get started compared to if I didn't have it. Does that help?
100% makes sense.
All right. The last thing that you need to know, that kids need to know about enzymes, is the lock and key mechanism. Let me know when you're caught up and I'll explain this.
I'm ready.
Okay, so enzymes, and do you want to
Is
record this part?
Yeah, all the things. Alright.
Okay, enzymes are extremely picky. It's like trying to find the best man in a sea of men available. I try one, and I'm like, nah, you ain't matching up with my energy. You ain't got the same goals as me. I tried this one. Ooh, no, your breath stank. Your mama getting on my nerves. Or I tried this one finally, and I'm like, oh, you love God. You're ambitious. You have nice teeth. These are all my favorite things. And finally, that man, or in this case, is a lock and key with me. I have accepted him, and now I can work. Whereas all these other choices that I had is like, we ain't fitting right. I'm not gonna work. I cannot work as an enzyme until I found the right match. And so that's really important for enzymes. They're the exact same way. They get bombarded with all these different substrates, and when they find the right one that slips right in with them, then they'll work. If they don't, it will not. And so enzymes are so particular. They need the right environment. They remind me of my middle sister. They need the right environment. They need the right match. They need the right. But once they get the ideal situation, boom, then I can lower the energy. I can do all these things, and I can work to my best self. Other things we need to know about, the last thing that I'm thinking about that we need to know about enzymes is also if they get outside of their ideal situation. So if I get into a situation where I'm in a temperature that is too high, I become a word called denatured. And now I'm like this, oh, woe is me. I can't operate. I'm too hot. That's also something to know about enzymes. And I'm excited that y'all get to teach this because when you do these pediatrics and this job, like that's what kids remember and that's how it sticks. And so hopefully these videos will help you like this storytelling that you can try to give with kids about enzymes.
Thank you. Very helpful.
Okay, so let's keep going. So we said micromolecules, that's number one. Enzymes, still a micromolecule, but its own specific topic. Number three that we're not saying is then the type of cells.
Okay.
Which are, what are the two types?
Prokaryote.
Yep, pro and eu. Kids have to be able to dissect that information in multiple ways.
Pictures, tables, and reading of these.
Yep, perfect. Then number three, Miss Henderson, was what two topics that you were talking about?
You doing photosynthesis? Can I say it?
Photosynthesis, and what's the other one?
I done wrote all over it for a second.
Starts with a C.
Not cellular respiration.
Yes.
Yay.
Photosynthesis and cellular respiration. Yep. The other things that I missed when we were talking about the types of cells, the other things that they need to know at that time is what?
You said you were talking about cells?
When we talk about cells, there's another topic that I missed that we need to talk about. It's happening to us right now. Viruses. That's the other. So that order, that's how it happens.
So do viruses come after cellular respiration?
No, viruses.
It's still going to be a part of the whole cell situation.
Yeah, so they're actually going to talk. They actually, in accordance to the pacing, they do. Excuse me. Biomolecules, viruses, then switch to cells. So we start talking about viruses first, then we move to pro versus U. Do you think we should do pro versus U first and then talk about viruses?
Yeah.
Okay.
Especially for that question number 8, like understanding that eukaryotic cells
Okay.
are big compared to, you know.
Yeah, we can move the supplemental lesson. I'm gonna go do my breakdown of the lesson just so I can compare. But yeah, we can move those 2 lessons up and then do the supplemental lesson.
Yeah.
Then photosynthesis and cellular respiration, that wraps up the whole unit. They should be done with this unit ideally by the end of October. If we have to stretch it further, we just need to do what we need to do because we need to make sure that they
It's
understand.
gonna go so fast.
Oh, it's a blink. It's like boom, 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 and especially because in October we have a Data and Equity Day. We're out. The following Monday, we're out for Indigenous Peoples Day. The following Friday, kids get out early for parent-teacher conferences. Then it's Halloween. It's just like that.
Yeah.
And so.
But honestly, I guess it's not that long. So next week is the 1st of October. It's gonna be that Friday. So that's when they're doing the macromolecules practice.
Yeah, because you started on next
I'm
Wednesday
gonna
and
start on
Thursday.
next Wednesday and Thursday, which I'm happy I'm starting on the 85-minute class.
Yeah, me too. Now that we've talked about it.
Yeah, so then after that, didn't you say something about an enzyme lab?
Yes, which I think we need to get rid of.
Okay.
I need to just double check what that looks like. If it would help kids like with the theatrics and the putting together, we can try to figure it out.
Okay.
But if we don't have the materials and it's not really going to help them like put the pieces together.
Honestly, you know what will help them? Well, exactly what we just did for the free response on student 1. A scenario. When I gave that scenario, every student got it right.
Really?
Yes.
That's great.
Yes, so I think we need a scenario similar to what you said, and then ask what will the enzyme do in those different environments.
Okay, on module 1, we were sitting here like brainstorming, and we gave like a real life example with Miss Kelly that I was literally sitting here and like I came up with, and it was like, Miss Kelly lets a friend come to visit her who needs a place to stay. That friend eats all her food, uses up all these things, and she has to give them money. What kind of relationship? Okay, now this friend is a bodybuilder and is good with guns and can protect people, and somebody comes to kill Miss Kelly.
Right.
What type of relationship is that? And so I'm glad to hear that the kids responded well to that. And honestly, like those are the moments where it just sticks because they think about that whole
scenario in their head. They were like, "Miss, that's crazy." And it's on the review that you'll go over with your students today too. So you'll go over. It's at the very end. But to my point, I think for enzymes, we just need scenarios like that. And I don't think it'll take them that long to get it once I introduce it.
Yeah. So especially as we sit in those threes and we start talking about lesson, push me to help you think through like what's a scenario,
Some more creative things.
some creative scenario
for
we can like draw kids in because to this day when my seniors that just graduated see me, they remember the scenario that I gave in chemistry about relationships, and I'm like, let's talk about marriage. These Adams, boy, they don't, and they're like, Miss is like, and I talk about my best friend, they're like, Chauncey? And so Chauncey came to visit and she's like, oh my God, did you sleep with Miss Cole's boyfriend? Like, they like got all into it. It was just so great.
Yeah. So then that would be enzymes. I mean, I'm pretty sure I will be done. How long do you think enzymes will take if I'm giving that on a 50-minute class day on not in the Monday after it?
I need to see what the lessons look like. Honestly, that's the next step now that we've covered the big pieces.
Okay.
Because we have a little bit of time, I would say let's make sure the biomolecules feels good. Because our next step is we can talk about enzymes and see like how to build that up.
So for the WFA, so for this first one, we just have biomolecules. And then reviews from, enzymes. So I would need to finish the example.
So FA1, we have scheduled for, it's not until October 5th. So we have another week that we can talk about it to prep for it.
Yeah, no, I'm just, because tomorrow you're not going to be here. So what I'm doing is I probably will have, by the end of today, I'll have my first lesson done.
Okay.
Wednesday and Thursday. So tomorrow that means I'm going to give my practice over biomolecules, and then I'm moving into the enzyme lesson.
Let's see. So, no, the lesson 30 that they give is still biomolecules. So then what's
Oh, so it's 2 lessons over biomolecules.
yeah, lesson 29 and lesson 30. So lesson 29 is that like intro, kids' own intro to it. Like, look at the pictures, make your own assumptions, blah, blah, blah. Lesson 30 is just reiterating monomers and polymers. And then they want you to jump into lesson 33, which is,
I'll let you know. I think what Ms. Kelly and I was talking yesterday and discussing, we have a huge gap in that class. I mean, you have your high learners, and you have we very have that middle. And so it's just trying to figure out how to kind of bridge that gap with the babies that are really struggling. And most of them that are really struggling are your significant behavioral students, the ones that are taking time to really deal with behaviors, which, she varies in there.
mm-hmm. So honestly, when I think about that class, when I think about biomolecules, instead of them having to fill out the table, I'm thinking we need to make sort cards for them. And so I can help with this if you need to see what this looks like. But the pieces that they give, we print them, have them put on cards, and then the co-teaching pieces. Then this is what we're given. I have these 4 big buckets. I'm gonna give you these set of cards, and I want you to try to sort what you think where these things go. Whereas the higher level kids, y'all need to write. That's fine. Y'all need to write. The behavior kids and the kids who are struggling, you're just going to move these cards around, and so then I can be like, yes, that's right. How did you know that? Yes, that's right. How did you know that? No, this is wrong. Look back at what. And so you can also guide them through. Like right now, I want you to sort where you think the actual molecules go, which of the 4. Then, okay, we've decided what the molecules look like. Now, what do you think the function is? And so instead of reading them, having them have to read that whole passage and all that type of stuff, this is where you can also give a gist. When you think of a carb, what do you think? Bread. Awesome. Okay. Bread. You start like walking them through that piece, and so that's gonna have to happen on 2 sides of the room. And so if we need to talk about this, I'm definitely fine with talking about this sooner rather than later. And Kelly, if you want me to do the printing so I can start to walk you through what this looks like, that's for them the things that I think they're gonna have to do, because they're not going to, they don't want to write. That's fine.
Yeah.
You need to sort.
Yeah,
the same thing I think
no, that's
with enzymes. It's like if we're giving, the AP for all is so heavy in like big text, stuff like that, it just cannot digest that fast enough. And so we can take those pieces of the text and say, first, just go sort this. And I think we can do that for multiple parts of this unit specifically, because there's so many pictures that they give us. Go put this where you think it goes. Go do that, take a picture, or now write what you think is important.
Yeah, so that will be coming up, like I said, next week.
Yeah, so what I can do today, excuse me, is make a copy, go ahead and print the first set, and then if you want, I can either make a video of what I think it looks like so that you can like model right after me, or we can just meet again on Monday or Tuesday and like practice what that looks like. Which do you prefer?
I like the video because I can actually sit and watch it over and over it versus me coming and sit down and having it once.
Yeah, I'll do that. No problem. And I'll also send you this video of all the things we talked about so you have something to reference. I'm trying to get better about that because I'm just like, I know it's so much information. It's so, especially as you learn it the first time. Like, I hated biology the first time I learned it. Now I really like it, but I've been involved with it now for 3 years, so I'm like,
I think you like it once you start to draw the connections.
Right.
You see how like everything is related, and it's like, wow, life is interesting.
Exactly.
Yeah, can you send me the video as well? I want to refer back to the beginning portion, but I think this is good. And I'm just trying to think of ways to like not make it feel so overwhelming for students. Like incorporate I think for like a review over biomolecules, we may do, like initially they may fill in the tables, but I think the cards could still be helpful for even my,
Can I make a couple?
You can take those.
Okay.
I think that the cards may even be helpful for my other students as well.
Especially for the review piece.
Yeah, for a review piece.